Today I want to show you how to use the new Delicate Doilies Sizzlits die from Stampin' Up. I thought I'd start by showing you some examples of cards that I've made with this die. Here's the Mad Stampers Club project for July using the largest doily. And of course, Mad Stampers Club members earn free tutorials every month for cards just like this and a stepped up version. Then here's a masculine birthday card that I made using the mid-sized doily. And then this is the featured project for the newsletter this month, which means that all my subscribers will be getting the free instructions for this card. And you can see here I've used the large doily and the medium-sized doily and layered it with paper daisies. I'm going to demonstrate how to cut the large doily with a 3.5-inch square of cardstock. With the Sizzlits with this much detail in it, sometimes you have trouble getting everything cut out nicely. The largest doily on here and the smallest doilies, they both work pretty well. This one I've had to fuss with a little more. And a lot of it depends on the tension in your own Big Shot because they're all just a little different. So you may have to experiment. So I've got my Big Shot with tab 1. Then a cutting plate, the Sizzlet with cardstock, a top cutting plate, and I'm going to run this through. And you can see this cut out quite nicely. Now, one trick you can use to help get all the little cutouts out of the doily is to just use your bone folder and curve the end like that, and that'll loosen them up. And then anything that is still left, you can take your stylus or a paper piercing tool, or sometimes I'll use the point of my craft knife and just punch all those little pieces out. And once I poke them all through, then some of them still are sticking on the back, and I can just go through with my fingernail and loosen those up and they'll come right off the back. Then I end up with this sweet doily. Now, if you find that when you put it through the Big Shot, you end up with this where it really hasn't cut through all the way and you really have to work at it and end up maybe tearing some of it, then you're going to need to use a shim. And I just use a piece of very vanilla cardstock for my shim. And I start with the tab 1 again, put down a cutting pad, the shim, the Sizzlits, the cardstock I want to cut, and then my cutting pad. And that's the sandwich that I'll run through. Now this will be pretty stiff to get through the Big Shot, so I'm going to stand up to show it to you. This is easier when the Big Shot is sitting on the table instead of on the grid paper, because the feet will grip the table when I push down on the handle across the top. With the paper under it, the paper gets torn instead. And you can see I really had to use some muscle with that, but my cutouts come out really easily. I find it's really essential to use a shim for the medium-sized doily because these cutouts are so tiny, the die doesn't always cut them all the way through very well without the extra pressure of that shim. And then when I go to poke out the cutouts, I like to use the point of my craft knife, being careful not to get my finger under where I'm going to poke, of course. Then when I turn it over, I can just use the blade to wipe across the edge of the cardstock, and that'll remove the little pieces the rest of the way. Like so. For more inspiration and instruction, be sure to visit me at www.stampingmadly.com and facebook.com/stampingmadly. Happy stamping!